Have you ever stopped to think about what it really means to truly love yourself? I'm not talking about a superficial kind of love, the one that depends on other people's approval. I mean a deep, unshakable love that comes from your most authentic self. Carl Jung teaches us that true transformation begins when we stop looking outside for something we already have inside. But the problem is that most people don't know how to access this inner truth because they are trapped in conditioning, past wounds, and other people's expectations. Many times, we spend our lives trying to fill a void that we don't even understand. We seek relationships to feel complete, acceptance to feel valued, and external achievements to feel like we have worth. But what happens when we get all of this and still feel like something is missing? What happens when we realize that none of these things truly bring us the peace we are looking for? Jung would say that this emptiness is not a problem, it's a calling from your unconscious, trying to tell you something you haven't had the courage to listen to yet. We were taught that self-love means taking care of ourselves, respecting ourselves, and valuing who we are. But rarely were we told that it also requires facing the darkest parts of ourselves. To truly love yourself is not just about accepting who you are when you're happy, motivated, and successful. It also means embracing your pain, your flaws, your fears, and your shadows. According to Jung, our shadow is that part of us that we avoid, reject, and don't want to admit exists. But as long as you keep ignoring this part of yourself, it won't disappear. On the contrary, it will manifest in your relationships, in your choices, and in the situations that hurt you the most. How many times have you felt drawn to people who, deep down, didn't value you? How many times have you found yourself repeating the same painful patterns, even though you knew it wasn't what you wanted for your life? This doesn't happen by accident. The unconscious mind works silently, guiding your decisions without you realizing it, until you finally decide to look within and heal what needs to be healed. True self-love doesn't come from pride, ego, or the need to prove something to others. It comes from a deep connection with your essence. It arises when you allow yourself to be who you truly are, without fear of judgment, without trying to fit into expectations that don't make sense to you. Jung teaches that individuation, the process of becoming truly yourself, is the most important journey in life, but also the most challenging. This journey requires courage because it means letting go of comfortable illusions. It means walking away from relationships that no longer make sense. It means letting go of identities that were imposed on you. And most of all, it means accepting that your happiness does not depend on anything external. Think about this for a moment. What are you still holding on to that you should have already let go of? What relationships, beliefs, or patterns are still keeping you stuck? Many times, we fear the emptiness that comes when we let something go. But Jung reminds us that this emptiness is not something to fear. On the contrary, it is a sacred space where the new can bloom. And the truth is, when you truly love yourself, your energy changes. Your perspective on life transforms. You stop accepting less than you deserve. You stop settling for things that hurt you. You stop needing validation from others to feel good about yourself. The right people start to appear. Opportunities that once seemed impossible begin to emerge. As Jung said, what we project onto the external world is nothing more than a reflection of our inner world. So, when you align with your true self, the universe responds. But for that to happen, you must be willing to dive deep inside yourself, to face your shadows, to accept your vulnerabilities, to stop running away from yourself. This is true transformation. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't come from magic formulas. It comes from a real commitment to yourself. And the question is, are you ready for this encounter with your true essence? Because every time we run away from ourselves, we create a reality where pain and dissatisfaction keep repeating. Jung teaches us that whatever we reject inside ourselves ends up showing up in the outside world. And this is no coincidence. The unconscious has a subtle but powerful way of showing us what we need to face. That's why we meet people who challenge us, who make us uncomfortable, who awaken feelings we don't want to admit. The problem is not them. The problem is that we haven't yet understood what these experiences are trying to teach us. If you have ever felt stuck in patterns of relationships that always end the same way, if you have noticed that certain emotions keep returning, even when circumstances change, this means there is something inside you asking to be seen. Ignoring this will only make these lessons repeat, each time more intensely. The unconscious doesn't give up on you. You can try to escape by keeping yourself busy with work, with new people, with temporary pleasures. But sooner or later, the truth always comes back. That's why self-love is more than just taking care of yourself or putting yourself first. It's a commitment to truth, a commitment to look at yourself with honesty and see where you are sabotaging yourself. Jung said, "The more we avoid our shadows, the more they control us." That's why, many times when we try to ignore our pain, it only grows stronger. Because the way to free yourself is not by running away from it, but by facing it head on. And this can be scary, because it means admitting that some choices we made were not out of love, but out of fear. It means recognizing that we often accepted less than we deserved because we didn't believe we could have better. But this realization is not just painful, it's also freeing. Because when you understand that you were the one who allowed certain situations, you also realize that you have the power to change them. You no longer need to hold on to stories that no longer make sense. You no longer need to repeat cycles that should have ended. You have the power to choose differently. And when you make that choice, your life transforms in ways you never imagined. Jung reminds us that true growth comes from confronting our own shadows, and that real transformation starts inside us. So the question remains, are you ready to stop running and finally meet your true self? Because when you make that choice, everything changes. And the love you've been searching for, it's been inside you all along.